Hello, hello, my brothers and sisters. This is Garrett Baker, your brother in arms, and welcome to another episode of The Tactical Businessman. Today's topic, the power of association. So I want to share a story with you. Back a few years ago when I was working patrol, there was a specific area of town I was working. It was the west side of town. And the west side was the dirtier side, i.e., that's where we had more activity. Why? It was lower income housing, lower income apartments, and then there just seemed to be more of the clientele that a police officer likes to run into, at least a certain type of police officer. That's the part of town that I love to work in. Why? There were more drugs, there were more gangs, there was more activity, and I was drawn to this activity. But when I first started, it was really difficult for me because I didn't really know anybody, right? It's like starting at a new school. You walk in, you don't know anybody, and you're like, well, who am I going to hang out with? I don't know. And eventually what happens is what? You start to hang out with the people that you either want to be like or you are like, right? This is how everything in high school works. Well, it's the same thing in life, right? This is how we end up with people who like a certain sports team or people who like a certain religion or different things like that. We start to hang out with people that are either going to where we want to go or are already at where we want to be at, right? Most of the time, though, this doesn't serve us. It doesn't serve us. But there are times when it does. So here I am, a relatively new police officer, and I love getting into problems. And I don't mean in a bad way. What do I mean? I mean, I like to get into situations when there's people who are going to run or people who are going to fight or people who are going to like cause problems, right? This was the area that I love to be in. And there was a particular Saturday night where I was out cruising around. And one of my partners at the time was a really good friend of mine. And he'd been one of the guys that had kind of mentored me when I'd started. And we'd really hit it off. So there was a few of us that we'd really like hang out together. We'd hang out in the same areas. Like we already knew by their voice, by their tone, by whatever was going on, whether something was okay or something wasn't. Like I'd started to spend time with these particular officers who also loved what we call on-view activity, right? They love to go out and find the drug dealers. They love to find the gang members that were committing crime. They love to associate with the criminals, right? Because they wanted to take them off the streets. They wanted to make them cleaner. So this one particular officer and I, plus a couple more of us, were working this Saturday afternoon in this one area. And I hear him call off on a foot pursuit, right? And when somebody calls off on a foot pursuit or a car that's failing to yield or any type of emergency situation, the dispatcher will issue what's called a hot tone. Beep, right? Basically telling everybody, stay off the radio unless you're directly involved in the activity that's going on right now that's an emergency. So he calls off on a foot pursuit. Every time they call on a foot pursuit, boop, they hot tone it, right? So beep, they hot tone it, and he calls off on this foot pursuit. He calls off on this where he's at and direction of travel. So I start, hauling ass over there. I'm getting really close, but there's no update on the radio, like nothing at all. And this is, concerning, right? Because if we don't know where he's at, we don't know what's going on. Like all kinds of different scenarios start going through your mind. So I don't hear anything. I come around the corner and I see his car. And so I start calling off the radio. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Nothing. So I was like, well, his last direction was this direction. So I start cruising this direction. Mind you, it's starting to get dark. I can't really see. I got my spotlight out, cruising down the road. I look to my right about 8 houses down from where his car was at. And then I see him in the front yard on the ground, actively fighting this guy. And so I pull up real quick, throw it in park, jump out of my car, come running up. And at this time, like, there was no one guy who had advantage over the other. Like, they were literally rolling around at the time. And so it ends up, as they're rolling around, that bad guy ends up on top of my friend, which is not a position you want to be in. So I've got a full head of steam. I come, boom, and I tackle him onto the ground, and I'm completely fresh, right? So proceed to lay the wood to this guy, get him in cuffs, and, some other guys come, and we haul him off. Well, I look over to my friend who's literally just laying there on his back, completely exhausted. Like, he has nothing left. He had nothing left. Because we're a few minutes after this has already happened. The bad guy's in the car. Like, he literally has nothing left. And I finally get him to sit up. I get him some water, and, we get him to stand up finally. And he finally catches his breath and gets back. And I'm like, bro, you all right? Like, I'm seriously concerned. Like, I've never seen you like this before. And he goes, dude, that's the worst fight I've ever had. Like, if you've never been in a fight, you don't know what a fight really is. There's a reason that MMA fights, their rounds go like 3 minutes, 5 minutes max. Why? Because it's completely exhausting. Like, if they went any longer, you would just see a couple of tired people, like, trying to swing at each other, trying to do, like, that's what it would be like. And so, mind you, from the time that this call came out to the time that I arrived was probably about 3 minutes. Now, most of us don't train for a fight that lasts more than 30 seconds. So he's 3 minutes into this thing with a drugged up criminal, and he's completely exhausted. And he told me something. He told me, if you wouldn't have showed up, I don't know what would have happened. And I was blown away. I was like, wow. Something bad really could have happened. And of course, when I showed up, the bad guy was on top of him, right? And so I started to think about this that day, and I was like, hey, man, I got you. I'm here for you, bro. And, there's a couple other the guys that again, we were in this group that came up, and they were there right after I was, right? They weren't too far behind. But the reason that he'd had success in this particular incident, i.e., we got the bad guy to go to jail and he didn't get his ass kicked, or worse, was because we had been close, right? All of us like to hang out in the same area. We all like to mess with the same type of people. We knew each other's voices when things were going good or weren't. Like, we had built this power of association that it allowed us to become better at who we were. It gave us the confidence, right? And I realized that if I hadn't been there for him that day, he would have failed. And mind you, failure could have meant any of a number of things. 1, the bad guy could have gotten away. 2, he could have gotten hurt. Or 3, and even worse, he could have gotten killed. Because at that point, he was completely exhausted. And I remember driving away just like grateful, 1, that I had been close to that area. But 2, like grateful for him in the fact that he had thought of me in that way. Grateful that I had needed backup at times and he'd been there for me. Grateful that we were both amongst these other group of men, that we were able to hold each other and help each other through these issues that would come up, right? Be it a complicated case, be it a fight, be it a vehicle that was failing to yield, like whatever it was, we were always there for each other. And I started to think about this the other day when it comes to business. Now, most of us, when it comes to business, what do we think? We think that, we got to go at it alone. We think nobody's here to help us. We think that we got to struggle and we got to try and overcome everything on our own, which couldn't be further from the truth. See, the same principle applies. You surround yourself with people who are either going the same place that you want to go or are already there. Why? Because they are there to help you, especially when you need it, especially when your back's on the ground, especially when the quote-unquote bad guy's on top of you and it looks like all hope is lost. That's what they're there for, to pick you up, to come fight with you, to come take care of you. And I learned this lesson last week, right? I was totally stuck when it came to this project that I was creating, this webinar, this funnel that was trying to integrate with Zoom, this other program. I'm trying to get all these things together, all these pieces together, and it wasn't working. And I was literally at wit's end, like gonna give up after spending hours upon hours upon hours of putting this stuff together. And as I'm getting to that point, I literally just sent a message to one of my friends. And this is not a random friend. This is a friend who's helped me for a very long time in creating and helping me get my noggin straight. And I was like, I don't know what to do. He immediately picked up the phone, calls me back, and he's like, what's going on? And I tell him. And he proceeds to walk me through. Now, mind you, it took about an hour, but he proceeds to walk me through every little obstacle that I had when it came to creation of this webinar funnel that I'm building. Every single step, he spends an hour of time. Now, what would have happened if I wouldn't have had him there? I would have given up and never tried it again, i.e., I would have failed. Think about this in your life. And yes, I'm applying it to business right now. And yes, I'm applying it to police work. But does this not apply to your marriage? Does this not apply to your physical body? If you don't associate yourself with people who are going to where you want to go or are already there, what do you think is going to happen when the obstacles come, when the roadblocks come, when the hard times come? You're going to fail because most of us can't make it on our own. Like we've never been able to make it on our own. So what's the biggest lesson, or one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in life, is to associate yourself with people who are where you want to go or are headed down that path. Ask yourself right now in your life, when it comes to your business, who are you associating yourself with? And I don't just mean a coach. Yes, a coach could definitely help. But a group of men. Like, if you have a coach, does this coach associate you with a group of men who are after the same thing that you're after? In your personal life, when it comes to your relationship with your spouse, do you have other people that you're associating with that are after more in their relationship? When it comes to your physical body, are you the person that tries to motivate yourself every morning to go to the gym in your garage and work out? Or motivate yourself to go to the regular gym and work out? Or are you the type of person that tries to associate with other people who are already going to the gym or group fitness or something like that, running, cycling, like it doesn't matter. Most of us fail because we don't leverage the biggest tool that we have, which is the power of association. So you want more out of your business, start to associate with people who are going to take you where you want to go or are already there. And again, this could be a coach, this could be a group, it doesn't matter. You want more out of your relationship with your wife. Start hanging out with people who want more out of the relationship with their spouses. Like if you're hanging out at the bar, or you're hanging out at the club, or you're hanging out at a football game, or at a basketball game, or a golf course, or whatever, and you're wondering why your relationship is dying, that's because you're associating with people who put something else before their relationship. Maybe it's time to change that association. If you want more out of your body and just going to the gym by yourself isn't working, find a group of people who are after the same thing. Like, how did I qualify for the Boston Marathon? Yes, that's right, the Boston Marathon. I qualified. I ran a 3-hour and 12-minute marathon. How did I do it? It wasn't by myself. It sure as hell wasn't by myself. I associated myself with a group of powerful runners who were able to guide me down that path, who were able to hold me accountable, who were able to lift me up when I needed it. See, life is only as complicated as we make it. It's not going to be easy. Like, don't get me wrong. You're not going to start doing some of these things and all of a sudden life's going to be easy. No, but there is a cheat code, right? There is a tactical advantage, and that's association. Associate yourself with some of these people. Associate yourself in some of these environments. Like, when did my business start to take off? When I got a coach, and not just a coach who had a tribe, who put me with a group of people who were headed the same way, they're the same place I was. So start to leverage these things in your life. You want more out of life, start to leverage the power of association. The old saying goes, and I'm sure you heard it before, you're only as powerful as the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. Think about that. Who are you associating with? All right, if you want more information, I got 2 places for you to go. GarrettBake.com talks about all the programs we got, or you can go to winthedailywar.com. It's all free. That's right, FREE. I got all kinds of little different things in there for you to help you with what? To help you with your life, to help you get clear on your business, your personal relationship, or whatever it is that you're struggling with right now. Because at the end of the day, what I want is for you to get what you want out of life. All right, that is it for today. As always, stay safe, and we'll see you on the next one.